The genesis is that we've had it so long, we want to keep the property for the next generation.
When we realized that there's an opportunity to redevelop, we had an idea that we could redevelop this in a different way, in a better way. And we started doing our due diligence. And from there, we started meeting people and visiting other passive house buildings across the Lower Mainland and in Whistler and in Pemberton. And then we started building our team. And really, the crux of this development process has been our team. And so we brought on Hemsworth Architecture, Nykun Contracting, MCW, and so on, because they all shared this idea that buildings can reflect not only what's happening today and pay homage to the past, but also represent the way of the future. And so when this building is complete, we're hoping that it will be the first commercial passive house mass timber building in the world with a regular restaurant in it.
Regular, good restaurant.
I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, the neighborhood's in flux. Like if you think about it, like right now it seems there's the new art gallery across the street and the new tower next door, but none of that was there when we first had the conversation. Like we've been involved in this project for a long time. And so the first challenge was thinking not what we were gonna do, but what was the context we were gonna end up in. And so knowing that the environment was changing dramatically based on the kind of use and the densification that's going on in Lower Lonsdale, our challenge was to kind of think about how it would end up and then how could we augment it and make it better. So it was kind of a bit of fortune telling in some ways. And so our intent was try to find something that we thought would enhance, especially the streetscape here between the new gallery and the south side. The original building had all its entry, it was an old restaurant, it was just entered off from the east, off of Lonsdale. And so we approached it as a way of opening the whole street up. So the concepts of like passive design and prefabrication, all that kind of thing followed in after that. But the original response was how to deal with it urbanly.
What first struck me about this project was that it was going to be really difficult to get together all of that the client wanted on the site in such a small area, but also with all of the extra efforts that they wanted to put into it in terms of passive house, in terms of no parking, in terms of meeting the expectations of the community on that corner. You can't always take advantage of prefabrication in a standard permitting process. If the client had to wait until the permit was issued to start that prefabrication, months, if not years, would be added to the construction time. So what we did at the City of North Vancouver was expedite the components of the review process that would allow them to start that manufacturing early on. And so we were able to overlap some of that off-site prefabrication work along with the permitting and approvals to help the building go up in a more timely manner.
What went through my mind when the project sort of landed on my desk and was described by the design team and the owners as a mass timber, a passive house certified office building 2 minutes away from our office space here in North Vancouver was that is a perfect project for Nykun. All components of that project align perfectly with our company's mission and vision statement around carbon neutrality, around prefabrication, around mass timber, and it really just ticked all the boxes in what I'd be looking for in a project.
To me, it's just good design. A good design is where everybody works together from the start. And it's just common sense that you have people from all the disciplines, including the contractor, including the CLT fabricator, and major subs right away working together. So we always strive for that.
We have had a few challenges that have come along the way, a few different teething issues where CLT has not been used in this type of construction before. For example, fire stopping. There are really no listed fire stop assemblies for some of these types of assemblies that are in this building. And so we've worked closely with Nikun and with the code consultant on the project on a one-off basis to look at each of those assemblies and determine an acceptability for those designs.
We use mass timber as a point of departure for all of our projects. It's kind of why wouldn't you do this? Where this kind of started to fold in was when we started looking at the kind of zero lot lines and really not much space to work in. The idea of prefabrication had come through, we've had experience with that with the factory in Pemberton. But then when we add on top of that, the fact that it was gonna be Passive House certified, just the trick of insulating that party wall along the back, how to build it so that it could be prefabricated and put in place, I don't think you could have done it any other way than with wood. So we never really considered another construction type for this building.
Well, look at this project. It's very tall and skinny, right? So that's the challenge, right? Like this is only a 25-foot lot, so you have the seismic forces going across the very narrow area. From our structural point of view, the COT is crucial for lateral resistance of the building. This is a shear wall that we're using. So we have to have these connections here that take the shear. And of course, we have to do it together with the whole design of the passive house, of the super insulation and the tightness and all the requirements of passive house.
One of the most interesting things to me is that encapsulated mass timber, which is now in the BC Building Code, is actually considered a form of non-combustible construction. That blew my mind, that through fire modeling and through good design sense and some encapsulation, it meets the definition of non-combustibility. I never thought that wood would be able to fill that hole, but some of the new designs and products and techniques of construction, wood has a place in our construction future.
Passive house requires that you don't have the heat bridges. And wood is just absolutely perfect for these. These columns that you see here, if they would be in steel, they would conduct heat on the elevation. In wood, they provide the natural resistance. That's why most passive house buildings built currently in British Columbia are out of wood. It's a long building, so for us engineers, we have the great diaphragm out of CLT. And it's a skinny building, so we also have great shear walls out of CLT. And then, of course, we have the exposed wood. And that's what makes this building so beautiful. So from the engineering point of view, it's absolutely done to use the efficiencies of wood.
Some of the things that were incorporated into this building are new. They're novel. They've not been used in the way they've been done before. One of the examples is the cross-laminated timber being used for a property line wall on the north side of the building. At zero lot line, that typically would need to be a different type of construction than what was proposed. In working with the design professionals, we were able to look at the building code through a different tool known as alternative solutions. And we're able to accept that from a qualified design professional to find a way to use that product in a way that it's not been used before.
The mass timber, prefabrication, passive house, mixed use, zero lot line, all of these things can kind of be picked apart and used specifically on other projects. But the real question is, when are they viable or not? So in this building, the ground floor is that original restaurant is coming back in. So now we have a restaurant in the ground floor of a passive house building. And that challenges from the air balance because there's enough makeup air comes in to deal with the kitchens. So we did months of modeling with our mechanical engineers and our passive house consultant, dealt with the Passive House Institute directly, got their people involved in it.
First time in my life, we had a meeting with the contractor, with the architect, with the crane guys, with the installers, where we did the full-blown installation on the computer.
Somebody had the idea of what if we built the structure first and slipped the wall between the zero lot line building. And I was actually quite against that and stated that to the team. And they came back with confidence and they said, this is how we're going to do it. This is going to work. And so we let them go and try, and it was very well done. And they would not have been able to have completed that and come with that level of confidence and certainty without being able to run different sequencing scenarios as if they were real and see what worked and see what didn't.
And this was fantastic, like we were bringing these long CLT panels on the site, and these panels were also prefabricated. And then we brought them like this, and they said, no, there's a better way. Let's first do this panel, not this panel. And it was like this back and forth with these brilliant guys on the installation side.
Yeah, so the structure and the wood components of this building consisting of primarily glulam columns, but some steel columns, as well as glulam beams, and then cross-laminated timber floor and roof panels, all connected by customized steel connections of varying types. So, we would call it a mass timber structure, but certainly a little bit of hybrid in there with the steel components that's connecting everything. The building envelope consisted of prefabricated panels coming from BC Passive House up in Pemberton, and they were installed over the course of a day and a half, and they wrapped essentially the structure, which was constructed first, and the envelope panels wrapped around the facade in a non-structural manner and sort of clipped into the wood structure. So the north wall and the zero lot line consists of vertical CLT panels that are running through the 3 stories and up to a parapet on the top. We received those panels at a staging yard a few kilometers from the site here. They were laid out in the orientation that they would be installed on site on the horizontal. And we were able to apply the membrane, the clips, the girts, the insulation, and part of the metal protection of the insulation all in the yard. We thread the needle, as they say, between the new structure that we built and the existing structure that was in place, and they were then connected at the bottom with a steel angle.
This down here at Lonsdale and Carrie Cates Court is an incredibly intensively used area. It's got the Polygon Gallery, it's got the shipyards right up against it, and inside of 9 days, this building was able to go from foundation to lockup. That's unheard of.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, people were commenting to us, that building went up so quickly. Wasn't there one day and next day it was there. How?
I didn't get a single noise complaint. I didn't get a single traffic violation of a delivery truck. No impacts on neighboring properties. Our public realm was undamaged. And in 9 days, the building was able to go from start to finish from a point of view of impact on the neighboring community. That's probably the best gift that any contractor could give to a city, is no complaints, quick construction, and get to that finish line as quickly as possible.
Part of our job is to design the buildings and coordinate them, and is also to educate everybody around us going into it. There is a movement of this type of building across the planet. It's just the question of getting everybody kind of up to speed.
Education of the front line intakers of the documents for permit, for development, for building permit, and then for approvals. That's a big thing. It's already slowly happening, but we need to get better with this process.
Immediately go and talk to the city officials. Like immediately sit down with them and say, this is what we're doing. What can you do to help? Because that should be the response, right? We're going to make a building that's more energy kind of conscious, and we're going to make a building that's sequestering carbon. We're going to do all these positive things. How are you going to help us get this thing executed?
Because the intensity of the work to deliver a building like this needs to start sooner. It means that we need to get certainty sooner, and it means that we need to collaborate and find ways to receive that certainty.
I think a number of developers, in fact, I know a number of developers, the first thought that they're saying to me is, how did they do that? How did they pull all that together? What strings did they pull? What did they design into the system to make it okay for the city to entertain that? And how can I do it myself? And what I want developers to think is that it's possible. You've seen it, and you've seen it in one of the most challenging sites in the city. Let's do it again. And let's find a way for you to learn and grow from this opportunity and provide the city with an amenity or a resource, an asset that we can all truly enjoy.
Get the right team. Get everybody included quickly. Put everybody around the table to talk about all the things that needs to be achieved, and do the process electronically. So that's kind of my advice recently. And very recently, people are coming, private developers are coming exactly for this advice.
So the advice would be early team collaboration, much earlier than you would generally consider, and then ensure that there is some form of glue holding that team together through the long process, and whether that be facilitation or whether that be somebody assumes the role of the integrator there. I think that glue is going to be a very important piece to keep that team moving forward. So
They could have done it cheaper, they could have done it faster, they could have done it easier, but they stayed with it. And that gave the design team, and because of that also the municipality, the clear mandate to find a way to get this done. And I think that we all work together because of their goal, their drive, their vision.
I did an IRR analysis, and it was totally positive. You know, it was a good return of 8 to 10%. I mean, in this day and age, when you're borrowing long-term money at 3%, that's a really good return. One of the good things about the process with bringing Nikun along is that once we got into the actual hard budgeting, the budget held all the way through. In fact, the budget's getting better as we've been going along, which is different. I mean, there's tons of horror stories around, yeah, we had a budget, we thought it was realistic, and it was 15% light or 5% light. Well, we're the reverse.
For future projects, we would definitely build with mass timber, because mass timber outperforms other construction materials across a number of different areas, socially, economically, and environmentally. Mass timber outperforms concrete in terms of cost, in terms of energy use, air pollution, water pollution, and even life safety in the event of an earthquake.
This building, when it's operating, will be producing less GHGs, consuming less energy, and being a net positive contribution to the North Shore. That's where we need to go. We know that we're going to get to net zero buildings. We know that we can reduce our energy usage, and we know how to do that. What we don't know yet is how to build that building in a way that's truly carbon conscious, using local resources, using local manufacturers, using local technologies. And that's where this building really shows that it can be done.
This is the way for the future, to build in passive house, to build with wood, because us as people in the construction industry, we need to set the example. We need to set the example, and it should be us doing these first buildings for ourselves.
For this building, I hope it's more than the metrics of the PHPP model, right? Or the U value of the windows. I hope it's a place that people can engage with and use and feel connected to. That's really, in my mind, how you measure sustainability.
I just hope that this will become a normal way of building. Like in British Columbia, with all this wood that we have, this should be the way to build. We have fantastic fabricators, we have great consultants and erectors, general contractors. We have everything that is required. So I hope in 10 years, this will be one of the normal options for the builder. This will not be exotic anymore. It will be just normal.
If you can't build it out of wood, then look for other options. But if you can build it out of wood, then that's the place you should start. And I think that's something that anybody could take away from this project, if nothing else.
kudos to the design team, because sometimes you don't understand things as a builder when you see them on a set of plans, and when they get built and you walk through the structure, you start understanding. And so there's some brilliance there that occurred. It's a head turner. You walk by, I stood out on the street before we sat down here today, and everybody that walked by stared at this building, and whether that be the beautiful brick facade or whether that be the fact you can see the brace bay glue lamps through the windows in certain cases, or whether that be that the glazing locations aren't maybe where you think they would typically be. And this is where I say the brilliance of the design comes into play. And this is really a landmark at the bottom of Lonsdale here that people will walk by for years to come. And it's just so fortunate for us as Nikun, as a company, and the great team that really put this building together, to be able to walk by and say, we built that.
We have built a commercial passive house mass timber building that is one of our dreams.
I think from a kind of urban point of view that we got what we wanted out of it, Now the question is what'll happen next, because there's other developments going on around it, more densification. So hopefully it becomes kind of a grounded kind of point of reference for people in the community.
One sentence that would describe what I feel about this project is, let's do some more.
We were trying to create a work of art that reflects the vibrant arts and culture community that is Lower Lonsdale and the Shipyards District. You know, we wanted the building to reflect the way of the future. We wanted it to be beautiful, we wanted it to be healthy, we wanted it to be energy efficient. And I think that's what we've done.